We have a land and expand go-to-market strategy. We had acquired multiple companies. We're trying to integrate all those together, and we're trying to allow multiple sales teams to work on leads and accounts independently of one another and really facilitate multiple sales cycles to a single company at the same time. So for our go-to-market strategy to be successful, we need to allow for the same record to be assigned to multiple different sales teams at the same time, because those multiple different sales teams may have simultaneous sales cycles happening with the same company at once. So we were in the position where we wanted to change how duplicates were being created. And basically we allow for duplicates to be created at the lead stage, as long as those leads are associated with different sales teams or business units. At the account stage, however, we like to keep one account per company and make sure that that account is assigned to the appropriate account manager for more of the expand part of the go-to-market strategy. So prior to RingLead, what we were doing to facilitate our go-to-market strategy honestly wasn't working very well. We were really strapped into a single lead per person, a single account per company, and it did cause some restrictions in terms of our ability to implement our go-to-market strategy the way that we wanted to. So bringing in RingLead really allowed us to break free of some of those restrictions in a way that we wouldn't lose control of our data. So we were using Distribution Engine for our routing. We were using a tool called Cloud Dingo for some of our deduplication, but having disparate systems kind of doing different things and small portions of the overall process was rather complicated. Whereas now with RingLead, we're able to consolidate both of those functionalities into a single tool, which is much more effective and efficient for us for maintaining and supporting our go-to-market strategy. Before RingLead, Kaseya was wasting money and likely losing money as well by really spending money on marketing campaigns where we were generating leads that sales wasn't necessarily following up on because the lead was getting routed to them incorrectly. And the receiving rep would realize this does not belong to me, but instead of reassigning the lead to the appropriate person, they would just sit on it. And those leads would essentially go cold and die without anybody ever following up on them. So there was a lot of missed opportunities we had as a result of that. Now we don't have that issue. With RingLead, we know that the first time it gets assigned, it is getting assigned to somebody who can and should be able to work that record. Kaseya has a SLA of 1 hour for all MQLs that are assigned to sales reps from the time that the MQL is assigned to the time that the rep follows up. So prior to RingLead, our sales reps would spend a lot more time weeding through leads, trying to understand if they could actually work a lead, and very often, much more frequent basis, they wouldn't be able to work a lead. So now they've wasted their time, and it did drive a little bit of resentment and folks being a little unhappy with having to spend their time in that way when they could be closing deals. Obviously, we don't want them spending their time in that way either. Now, with RingLead, we are fostering an environment of obeying and honoring the SLAs. But not only that, we're actually getting the lead assigned quicker to the right rep. So the time that is ticking before the SLA clock starts is much shorter than it was prior to RingLead. So I would categorize RingLead as a data orchestration platform because it really is acting as a maestro, right? As a marketing operations person or anybody in sales ops or familiar with CRMs, there is data coming in from all different angles. It is coming in from the marketing automation platform. It is being inputted by sales reps. And RingLead gives us the ability to pull in all that data from all the various sources, make sense of it, and really drive the outcomes that we need in terms of deduplication and routing throughout our organization. So we have triggers for every new record. We have triggers for every existing record where there's a score increase if that record's like not owned by a sales rep. That sends the record through a series of workflows within RingLead that do the lead to account matching. Then we do lead to related lead matching. And then if all else fails and there are no related records, then we use RingLead's round robin functionality to assign out the records. So prior to implementing RingLead, we weren't able to do lead to account matching out of the box with Salesforce. We actually had to develop our own custom code. And it was really kind of a little bit of a black box. It wasn't very easy to manipulate. There weren't a lot of people within the organization who understood how it worked. And anytime we needed an update or a change, it was a big process to get anything in place. Whereas with RingLead, the lead to account matching is very robust, giving us any option we could think of under the sun in terms of matching the lead to the appropriate account. And not only at the matching level, but then what happens after the match has taken place. Do we want to assign that lead as a lead to the account owner of the matching account? Do we want to convert that lead? Do we want to ignore the match altogether and do something entirely different? There are a lot of options available to us in the RingLead platform that we just did not have available prior to implementing RingLead. The consequence of not having leads matched to accounts is a lot of conflict between our new customer acquisition team and our account management team. We used to see it all the time prior to RingLead, where a customer would maybe hire a new technician. They would submit a web form on a product that maybe they did or did not own. It doesn't really matter, but it would go to the new customer acquisition team as opposed to the existing relationship manager for that account, and really waste a lot of time internally just making sure that the record got to the right person and that we were able to leverage the existing relationships we had with that company to close that deal quickly and at a higher conversion rate. The first thing that we wanted to accomplish with RingLead was a massive deduplication of our data. We, over the last several years, have acquired 6 companies or so, and we continue to acquire additional companies as we grow. And every time we acquire a company, we migrate all of their data into our Salesforce instance. What resulted was a large number of duplicates, unintended duplicates specifically, that we needed to rid our system of. So we used RingLead to do that. When we first implemented RingLead for deduplication, we actually, over the course of a weekend, we deduped our entire database. So we started accounts to accounts, deduplicating those. Then we went and looked at leads to leads. We actually converted leads into contacts and attached them to the appropriate account. And then from there, deduplicated contacts to contacts within a single account. For over a year after we first migrated our first acquisition into our Salesforce database, we were just riddled with duplicates before we actually implemented RingLead. So having duplicates in our system definitely costs our company revenue. So when we acquire companies, it's extremely difficult for us to be able to expand relationships when there are duplicates in the system, because essentially nobody really knows who the account manager is of a customer account that we might share with the company that we just acquired. So being able to rid our system of duplicates, make sure that we have a single source of truth for who the account manager is, and make sure that that person is responsible and accountable for maintaining and growing that relationship has really been important to us. So since enabling RingLead, we have done migrations for acquisitions that we have conducted. And it has become an integral part of our migration process, where we import the data first as it stands from the source system into our target Salesforce instance. And then we use a RingLead immediately after as a number one priority to deal with the duplicates, merge them where appropriate, and make sure that all the records are owned by the correct account manager. Our bigger problem with Cloud Dingo was it was more of a black box. Like it was not very user-friendly. It was very difficult to actually configure it. So when we're using a deduplication solution, it's very important to us to preserve the data accurately and in the correct format. So there's a lot of intricacies that we are able to put into place using RingLead, where we can get right down to the field level and decide which value wins over other values that might appear in that same exact field. As well as dictating who the ultimate owner of the surviving account is going to be, and making sure that we don't lose any of the related data, things like opportunities and subscriptions, as a result of the merge. Now that we have RingLead, it is much easier to make sure that we're honoring compliance requirements and requests in relation to, say, GDPR, for example. If somebody asks to be forgotten and we have that person in our database 4 or 5 times, it becomes a much more complicated process, as opposed to if we dedupe the record through RingLead, we're very confident that when we find that one particular record, that it's the only one that exists. RingLead is really improving how I do my job because it is actually giving me the ability to implement the requirements of the business, which we've just simply did not have before. RingLead saves me an immense amount of time. Once we got through the initial onboarding with the help of Elliot Lowe and the others at RingLead, we were able to really operate on somewhat of a set it and forget it type of perspective. Having that all-in-one tool just makes us incredibly more efficient, and we're not losing time between switching tools. Our experience with RingLead when it came to onboarding us as a new customer was really top-notch. We got absolutely stellar service from the team at RingLead. They held our hand every step of the way, and they really helped us guide through our really complex rules, where they were helping us to define those rules in ways that we could actually implement them. It's really one thing to have an idea of what you might want the rules to look like. It's an entirely different thing to be able to take those ideas and put them into terms of business requirements. And the team at RingLead really helped us to get to a point where we had a really finite set of attainable business requirements that we could implement within the tool.